are going live on YouTube right now. So I will officially say good morning, STrEaM Academy. Your host, Adam Okelke, STrEaM Academy Principal. And today is Thursday, May 7th. Last night we had Academy. Last night we had our new parent, new student orientation, which is really cool and really exciting and really long. So for any new parents, we invited new parents to tune in today. For any new parents who are here, I'm sorry, it was long. And it's a lot of information. And what we kept saying was, don't expect to get it all that first time. We will find lots of ways to review those expectations and those things that we do. And now it's also there on YouTube where you can go and watch different sections of it or watch the whole thing, wherever you want. So today's morning coffee, I actually don't have a really packed agenda. I intentionally left morning coffee pretty open today because we had an hour and a half meeting with our new families last night. We wanted a chance to kind of debrief on that if that was necessary, and talk to new parents, greet any new parents who come in and join us. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Ms. Gatlin. I see that you're here with us. And hi, Ms. Gatlin. We have Mr. Mosen on with us. We have Ms. Bonertz on with us. And of course, my trusty sidekick and co-host, Mrs. Beyondich, is here. And we have several parents already here with us. Good morning, parents. Welcome. Thanks for coming. Who wants to start us off today and just share something good?
Let's see, I will. Got a miracle. My 19-year-old daughter got up at 6:45 and met me for a run, which is not her time of day. And it was just, I think that would happen more often, but I'm just taking it when I can get it. It was very, very nice.
So you got in a run already before your morning coffee today.
Unreal. Yeah, that's a good thing.
That's pretty good. I've been getting in my runs, but they've been a little later in the afternoon in the day.
Well, I used to ride my bike to STrEaM before this all happened. And so I'd have a little, 40-minute warm up. So this was my bike ride, but it was a run. Yeah.
I wish I could be one of those people who exercised to start the day, because the few times I've been able to do it, it's amazing. It changes your whole day, just that energy you get. But I can't. I'm not that person. I can get myself to do it later in the afternoon, but not 6 in the morning like you, Mosen.
I think my daughter would totally agree with you.
But then again, most of us can't do the things Howard Mosen can do, because if you don't know Mr. Mosen, he really is Superman. He's a pretty amazing dude.
Okay.
Sorry to embarrass you, Howard, but it's true.
I'm working on taking compliments. All right, thanks, though.
I learned something about taking compliments once in something called Leadership Blueprint. Changed my whole perspective, because I'm really bad at taking compliments and I tend to deflect. And but they really talked about when you won't take a compliment, the impact that has on the other person. Like, it makes the other person who's trying to compliment you feel uncomfortable or feel bad. And I thought about that, and I was like, wow, I definitely don't want to make people who are saying nice things to me feel bad because I'm deflecting so much. And what they said was, just if somebody compliments you, instead of doing that thing we all do, and put it off or whatever, and just say thank you and accept it. Thank you, I appreciate that. It's hard to do. It's funny that, why are we like that as humans? Why is it so hard to take a compliment? But it is. So there's a little leadership blueprint passing on for you.
So my
Uh,
positive is that it's Teacher Appreciation Week. And last night I was working on these fabulous things for our teachers that we're going to send out to them on Friday. And except for Mr. Mose, and he has to wait till he gets into town. Um, and so I have this in my brain. I have these words that say STrEAM teachers are out of this world. So today I wore my Galaxy shirt.
You're out of this world, Miss Bionich.
Our teachers are sure out of this world.
I've been thinking we start every APC meeting and every staff meeting with our mission, and so we have these nice morning coffee slides that we're trying out to give a little bit more texture to look at. And we have our mission on there. Anchored STrEAM Academy empowers students to be involved learners, critical thinkers, and engaged citizens who are inspired by the natural world. So, like I said, we don't have a packed agenda today. It's kind of an open format, chance to talk about a few things. We can talk a little more about our parent orientation from last night, new parents, and online registration. The second lottery is open. We could talk a little bit about where our enrollment's at. Or if there are any questions or topics that you all want to bring up, we can definitely delve into those. We do have some pretty exciting events or guests next week. I really want to encourage you to come to Morning Coffee next week. On Tuesday, we have Andronell Brown and Whitney Diatri, who are two of our founders, and they're on our APC, the board that oversees STrEAM. And they have been studying and researching trauma-informed care specifically as it applies to like our school closure situation and sort of self-quarantine situation. And they are going to come on and present on that topic on trauma. That's a super interesting topic that has really had a big rise in public education as a focus for us over the last 10 years. Just sort of the idea of trauma and how trauma affects us, affects students, affects children, affects your brain, and therefore, affects how you operate and how you learn, and the barriers that you face. It's really interesting. There was a study that some research done that they coined an acronym for called ACEs. And so you can sort of take a test or an assessment of this inventory of childhood traumas that you may have experienced, and then you have an ACEs score. And so you kind of have a barometer for what your own trauma is that you carry and how that impacts you. And so I can't remember the whole list off the top of my head, but I'm sure they'll delve into it more. But things like abuse or mental or emotional abuse and different types of abuse, or substance abuse in the home, and lack of resources, maybe lack of food, poverty, those types of things. And so it's just kind of interesting to really dig into how those things we experience affect us. And the piece I think I'm always most interested in is that resilience piece, what Ann Duckworth from Harvard calls grit, right? Like I've had challenges in my life, like most people have, and yet I think the thing I'm most proud of is being able to overcome those and to be resilient, to bounce back, or not even just to overcome your challenges, but I think to use them to make you stronger, right? Ernest Hemingway has that great line that something to the effect of, the world breaks us all, and afterwards we're stronger in the broken places. And I love that concept, that like the places that we've been broke or we've been hurt and healed and overcome those are the things that make us strong. So that was their whole presentation. Now you don't have to watch. Just kidding. I don't even know what they're going to say, except I know they're going to delve into trauma and give us some new insights.
Right. And one of the things that they wanted to point out was that this is a traumatic event for our kiddos.
Yeah, definitely.
And how how we respond to this event will help frame how our students respond to this event.
Thank you. That's a much better and more succinct introduction to their talk than me going into my understanding of trauma-informed care. Thanks for bringing it home. And see, that's why you're my radio show co-host and my trusty sidekick, Mrs. Beyondish. That's why we love you.
I'm like the Roz to your Frasier, right?
Yeah. So we have that, and then we also, I sort of went like crazy with inviting guests, and had, just kind of went on a wild, goose chase, and like, I'm gonna invite like some really cool and important people. And the cool thing is that it paid off, that like a lot of people surprisingly were like, yeah, sure, I'll do that. And so like the big one was Dr. Ann Zink. I totally did not expect her to have the time in the middle of managing the pandemic for Alaska to come on, and she did. But we've got a bunch of other really cool guests lined up too. And so I talked to former state representative Les Gara, and he's a friend of STrEAM Academy. He actually, goes way back with Scott Cleaver, who's one of our founders, and taught for STREAM for a bit. And he agreed to come on. He's going to be on. So he's going to be on Tuesday as well. So definitely tune in for that. He said what he would like to present on is how to talk to your legislators about education. And I think that's awesome. That's a great topic for me, for teachers, for parents, how to reach and talk to legislators and let them know what your priorities are for education. So that's Tuesday's show. Nikki, you had your hand up. Do you want to jump in?
Yeah, I actually just wanted to pay you and your staff a huge compliment, because I've found that, I'm so grateful for these morning coffees. And, I don't see that this is something that's the norm maybe across the district, but I really appreciate you asking the questions, because like I always tell Caitlin, that we never know what people are going to say until we ask. And so I just appreciate you reaching out and, asking and bringing these wonderful resources to all of us. And I just, I think that, and then when Sylvia did her registration, I mean, it just made it so much easier to walk through that whole process too. So I really just appreciate you and your staff and Sylvia for, providing this for all of us. And yeah, just think you guys are great. So thank you.
Awesome. Thanks. It's good to get that feedback. It's good to know that it's appreciated. Thank you. We really do appreciate that. It's been fun doing it. It really evolved out of, as you know, so to be totally honest, I think that started with, we asked teachers in the very beginning, we're figuring out how we're going to do this. And we asked teachers to set their office hours to be available to parents and students. And Mrs. Beyondich and I were kind of talking like, one of something I really strive for as a leader at STREAM is to practice and model what we do and what we ask teachers. So I try really hard to practice that. And, if I ask them to do something, that I'm willing to do it also. And so Mrs. Beyondich and I had the conversation, well, teachers are going to have office hours 2 days a week. What about us? And so this actually sort of started as our way to say, we've asked you to have office hours. We're going to have office hours too. Here we are. That's where this came from, and it evolved over time. The first couple of morning coffees, parents had a lot of questions. There were a lot of parents on, and they just, how is this all going to work? And they needed to hear that information a few times and just kind of talk through it. And then as that died down, we thought, well, we should start to look for some specific topics to share on, and then kind of evolved into asking some guests to come on. So we have really enjoyed it as well. Nikki, thank you. I appreciate it. The other upcoming coffee dates. So we talked about Tuesday's coffee, and that will be really cool. Andrew Nell and Whitney will do an awesome job, and then Les Gara, that's really cool. He's an interesting, really knowledgeable person, and neat person to have on. And then Thursday, again, we have two different presentations or topics and two different special guests. We have Professor Gable from UAA. She's worked with our school for a couple of years now. and Mr. Mosen can tell us more about what she does in a second, doing some fitness and movement type things that are really cool. She's going to come on and just talk about that. And then I reached out to current legislator, State Rep Ivy Sponholtz, and asked her if she wanted to come on, and she's East Anchorage representative, and she said yeah, she'd come on, and so she'll be on with us on Tuesday or on Thursday as well. Mosen, since we have Professor Gable coming on next week, do you want to tell us a little bit? And I'm going to grab some coffee, but I can hear you guys. You want to tell us a little bit about what Professor Gable does?
Yeah, well, mostly what I know is that she is a volunteer extraordinaire for STrEAM. She has shown up at least 5 different times on her own time, coming to school, and she's done a whole discussion on nutrition with the kids. You guys hear me? I can't see, and Adam's frozen, but anyway, if you can hear me, great. If you can't, just type it in the chat. She talks about nutrition and health in general, but what I really like doing with her is watching how she does her exercises. And she has a rhythm exercise with sticks that she does with music. And at first it's kind of, it makes everyone laugh and it seems really goofy. And then you try and keep up with her and you're like, whoa, this person is serious. And it's just a really nice way to motivate yourself, your body to move with music and rhythm of using these like drumsticks. So she's been a professor at UAA for 30 some years, at least 30 years. So she is pretty polished and she has a great way of getting people moving. So that's what I have.
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Mosen.
Yeah.
What do we know? What exactly does Professor Gable teach at UAA? Do we know?
Yeah, I would say nutrition and health, but I would also say I don't exactly know her title.
Yeah, so we'll learn more about that.
Yeah, she's in the PE department at UAA.
Yeah. Awesome. So that's our lineup for next week. I'm gonna go back to sharing my screen. All right. So reminder to do online registration. Parents who are online with us today, I trust you've all done your online registration, right? Any parents out there who are watching on YouTube or might be watching this later, please do your online registration. Where are we at with online registration, Mrs. Beyondich? Are you able to tell us on short notice? You have to unmute your mic if you want to talk to us, though, Mrs. Beyondich.
Like I was just talking away over here. I can find the statistics, but they're not that easy to find. And I will pull those statistics later in the week so that we have them available for on Monday or Tuesday, next Tuesday's meeting, so that we can do another reminder for online registration. It doesn't take long to do. It's good for the entire district to get it done. So even if your student doesn't go to Anchorage STrEAM Academy, just plan to go ahead and get it done, because then that way the district has better planning, statistics for planning. And this is a time that we actually need these statistics to know what kids are coming back and what kids have had to move out of the district for whatever reason. So I'll get those statistics for you.
Okay. Yeah, it's super interesting. I think for me, you know, the big thing is our seats. That, you know, we have a limited number of seats and we want to fill those. We want to make sure we get that right. And it's kind of a moving target, you know, in terms of new students we can accept and knowing how many seats we have until we really know what, you know, how many of our students are returning and who's all registered. So yeah, we have a wait list, and that's the exciting thing. Yeah, we've got a wait list still in all 3 grades. And we've got parents who, I got an email from a parent a couple days ago, you know, asking how that works and where they're at and what's the chance of getting in. And had a nice long conversation with a parent who just really is on the wait list and really hoping that their child can get into STrEAM Academy. And that's cool. I want to take everybody. That's the hard part. Having a wait list is hard because how do we not take kids who really want to be here and families who really want to be a part of this? But we have a wait list at all 3 grade levels. 6th grade, and I could use help from anybody who can hear this and kind of pass it on. I could use help with this. 6th grade is the one that's a little weird. We have a wait list in 6th grade, but sort of. We have 60 6th grade seats. And so we've filled 50 of those. And what we did is one of the things we're allowed to do with the lottery is to balance for demographics, and gender's a big one. And so we took 30 boys, so half of those 60 seats. We have 30 boys for 6th grade and 20 girls. And so what we did is we kind of hit pause on accepting the rest of those 6th grade seats to wait for the second lottery and see if we can get closer to, it doesn't have to be a 50-50 balance. That'd be ideal. We don't have to have 30 and 30, but we wanted to hit pause because what would have happened if I would have let it continue to run is we would have had 40 boys and 20 girls and the seats would all be filled. And that's a little bit imbalanced. So we have 56 graders right now who are accepted or on the books coming to STrEAM, 30 boys and 20 girls. And we're holding those last 10 6th grade seats for a while to try to fill as many of them as possible with girls. So if folks could help us get the word out with anything recruiting wise, right now it's 6th grade girls. We need ideally 10 more 6th grade girls. We do have a 6th grade waiting list, so that's why it's kind of wonky, but it's a bunch of boys who still want to come, which is awesome, and we're going to end up taking some of them. So for one, if we don't fill all 10 of those seats with girls, if we get 7, that'd be fine. Then we're going to fill those 60 seats either way. And so we'll take those boys off the wait list, regardless. And then, the other thing is when we set the seats at 60, and then when we actually do the final scheduling and get kids in classes, I look at the numbers really closely and see, can we take a few more? So like last year we had 60 seats, and then when we were working on this in late July, early August, and I looked at the numbers and the rosters, I ended up taking, was it 4 more, Mrs. Beyondich? So we actually ended up taking 64. So there's a good chance those boys on the wait list are still going to get in 6th grade, but we're going to hold off for some girls. Nikki.
So what do the numbers look like in the current 6th grade, 7th, 8th? Like, do you usually get pretty close to 50-50 for gender balance, or?
We've gotten better each year. We've had a gender balance problem early in our school. Frankly, we were a lot more, heavy on the boys' side.
Mm-hmm.
So the current 6th grade was pretty well balanced because we did this last year. Last year was the first year we were able to really be more selective and restrictive on that gender balancing and really push for that. So this current year 6th grade, for a while, actually, we had more girls than boys even. So I think it's pretty, I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, and this, be honest, you might know, but this year's 6th grade was pretty close to 50-50. And then, so going into next year, our 7th grade, we'll have 60, give or take 60 7th graders. We have 58 6th graders right now. And we opened up a few 7th grade seats. And so that's where that registration piece is super important also, because we have to see, how many of those our 6th graders are going to return. Right now, if all of them returned with all the kids we took in the lottery, we'd be a little overfilled in 7th grade. I'm a little, made Miss Beyondich a little nervous, but unfortunately, I know attrition happens. There are going to be a few families who move and changes that happen.
We're even Steven in our current 6th grade class that's getting promoted to 7th grade. We're even Steven, and so it's a perfect 50-50 balance. And then we're actually took an even number we opened 7 seats and they're all filled, and 4 of those are girls. So we're gonna be just a little bit more girl heavy in the 7th grade,
That's
but
good.
Wow.
not significantly.
Yeah.
And then eighth grade, this year's 7th grade was not gender balanced as well. It was heavier. It was probably 2/3 boys and 1/3 girls. And so the 8th grade is going to look a little bit, it's the only cohort that'll be a little more imbalanced. It'll be more boys and girls in 8th grade, but the rest of it, 6th and 7th, will be pretty well balanced, and that's pretty cool.
Mhm.
Yeah, we're looking at next year's 8th graders at 19 girls and 26 boys right now.
Yeah, and we opened a couple seats and took girls in those seats, right? Are you counting those too?
Yeah, I'm counting those
Yeah.
two.
So,
So-
so actually, we could say, say the same thing with 8th grade if we were gonna. I mean, we traditionally don't take a lot of 8th graders. I mean, we like that to be a group of kids who have been with us for 1 or 2 years at least, but we'll take a few every year. Yeah, but definitely same as 6th grade. We would certainly look at taking a couple more 8th grade girls.
Yeah,
Mhm.
the 8th graders that we took this year were because they had a 6th grade sibling, and we wanted to keep the family together. So that's why we accepted those 8th graders,
Yeah,
incoming
good.
8th graders.
And it's good to know for families, anyone who's looking at coming to STrEAM or has kids coming up, behind the ones that are with them, the things that help you in the lottery, especially because we're getting to a point where we've got a wait list, and I think moving forward we're gonna continue to have wait lists. So sibling preference bumps you up, right? So if you've got a sibling already at STrEAM, you get a pretty strong preference there, not only just in the lottery in terms of it actually gives a preference when the lottery runs, it bumps you up the list, but then it gives you a strong preference with Mrs. Beyondich and I. We're really watching, because we don't ever want, I don't ever want a sibling to not be able to attend STrEAM, and that hasn't happened yet. So that like immediately puts you on our radar to watch it closely and make sure that we can get siblings in. And we're the only charter school in Anchorage, and we're really proud of this. Our founders wrote this into our charter, and it's really cool. We are the only charter school that has a neighborhood preference. So if you are an East Anchorage family, meaning that you would go to Bartlett or East High School for high school, or Baggage Clark, right? If you're in those boundaries, you have a neighborhood preference that also bumps you up the lottery. So if it's between a kid who is zoned for Baggage and a kid who's zoned for Mears, the student zone for Baggage gets bumped up the priority list for us. And that was really important to our founders, and I think is really cool that we are, when we say we're dedicated to East Anchorage, there's some something behind that. There's some substance to that. That's the word I'm looking for. Because East Anchorage community is, our founders worked in East Anchorage schools, and we're really dedicated to the community. And there aren't as many options as there are in other areas. There aren't as many cool programs and things for kids in East Anchorage as there are in other areas. And so we really wanted to rectify that and have the premier charter school in all of Anchorage be located in East Anchorage.
Do you find kind of a trend as far as like where a large portion of your 8th graders will end up going for high school, or do you kind of have a feel for what that usually kind of looks like?
Yeah.
As far as that move?
Yeah. So they go all over because we still, I mean, when I say we have an East Anchorage preference, that is nothing against families from the, we love our families from all over the city, and we encourage, and we want that diversity. We want students from all over Anchorage. So it's not a bias, definitely. Like we really embrace that. And one of the things I've always found cool is like we have families from Eagle River every year who they drive in and bring their kids in from Eagle River. It's super cool. So they go all over. They go to every high school in the city. But the biggest ones, because we do have more kids from East Anchorage than anywhere else, the biggest ones are Bartlett and East High. are the main ones. And then Highland. We send a lot of students to Highland Academy, and we had Amy Johnson, Mrs. Johnson on to talk about Highland, and we have a really close partnership with them. So Miss Bonards, I'm just shooting from the hip. That's an anecdotal. I haven't actually looked at data to confirm that. My anecdotal answer to that off the top of my head is I would say we send students to Bartlett probably the most, then East, then Highland. What do you think?
I would say Bartlett for sure, number one. Highland and East are pretty even, Steven, if you consider schools in the school as well.
Okay, that's good to know. Actually, that's cool.
And that's right. The majority of the students that we send to East didn't go there because that's their zone school, right, Ms. Bonards? They went there because they deliberately chose the school within a school program at East High School. And we sent a lot of kids. That program only accepts 50 incoming freshmen, and we sent a lot of them there.
That's cool.
Yeah, I taught at East High School years ago when I first came into the Anchorage district, and I loved that high school. So I just was wondering if there's kind of like a trend of directions that your eighth graders kind of gravitate towards, I guess I should say. So yeah, but that was great that Highland also came on, because I didn't know anything about Highland, but knew that they were there in the district office, but just wasn't sure what they were about. So that was very interesting and fun to listen to.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of misconception about charter schools just because there's not a lot of voice. The district stopped a couple of years ago having their charter school and alternative program fairs that they used to have, and so it really cut off the amount of information that was going out about charter schools. So for Mr. McKelkey to invite another charter school on to talk was a really excellent plan, because it gives the whole charter world more voice in the public.
Yeah, thank you. I actually invited the two homeschool charters, correspondence charters, Frontier Principal Finkler and Family Partnership, their new principal, Mrs. Parker. I invited them to come on and talk about homeschool. I think one of the things I've come to wrap my head around is that I think a lot of families really see a continuum. If you look at educational options as a continuum, they really see charter schools as an intermediate step. If you have homeschool or correspondence here and like your traditional neighborhood public school here, families really see charter schools as sort of a bridge in between, as a real viable option if you're a family that is inclined towards homeschool or correspondence or non-traditional schooling. They really see us as intermediate. And so we've had a lot of families who were homeschool families. They have kids in Frontier Charter or or Family Partnership or Paideia or one of the statewide correspondence programs, and they came to us. And so we hear a lot like, well, I've been homeschooling my kids, and so now this is their first brick and mortar public school experience, or their first one in a while. We hear that a lot. And we also, on the back end, we hear families saying that they're looking at homeschool or correspondence after STREAM. So I really feel like charter schools are on that continuum, and I'm going to try again to get those two principals to come on and talk a little bit more about their programs, because again, I think we need to be open to our other charter schools and work in partnerships with them. It's kind of a larger family. And it's funny, yeah, people don't know a lot about charter schools. I have an article on my blog about what charter schools in Alaska are, and I just recently started pushing this idea in the charter school principal group that we really shouldn't be called charter schools, and I would call us like independent public schools would be a good title, because if you have like any kind of a global perspective, like looking at the whole picture of the United States, charter school, we're not a charter school. Like charter schools in Alaska aren't what people think of when they think of charter schools. Charter schools in the lower 48 are predominantly much more independent of local school districts and even of the state, educational umbrella. They're privately backed, privately funded, they're businesses in a lot of cases, and they're businesses that have, in a lot of states that get to access public education dollars, but operate totally independently. And so I can put that blog up there. I can find that and put that link if anyone's interested, but we're really not charter schools the way people think of charter schools in Alaska. And I think Alaska does it really well. So charter schools in Alaska still have to be authorized by a local school district. So every charter school in Alaska still is a part of their local school district. We're a part of the Anchorage School District. And then every charter school in Alaska falls under, the policies of and oversight of that district. And also all of the laws and statutes that apply to public education in the state of Alaska. So we get asked questions about state testing or, things like that. And yes, we do everything, anything a state statute says public education must do or follow, we do what we follow. And so that's really different than most of the charter schools, in the country. And it's good. It's a good mix of independence. We do have independence. We do, we can do the things that are written in our charter, and that's why you write a charter, to say, this is what we're going to do differently. This is how we're going to operate. And so if it's in our charter and it's different than what ASD does, we can do it, and we do. Yet we still have, I think some oversight is good. I think the statutes and regulations from the state and policies from the district are, really meant to protect students and to protect schools and have good intention. So having that oversight is good. I think the ugly stuff that you hear about charter schools, or the, things that go sideways in the lower 48, you can track that back a little bit to lack of oversight, because you hear a lot about charter schools, not so great things happening and not working out well. And that doesn't happen in a public school with the level of oversight that public schools have.
Right, and that includes discrimination against students that have IEPs or 504s.
Yep.
And I am just stunned at the excellent quality that we offer those students here. And charter schools in the lower 48 can deny you admittance to school based on, well, we can't serve you. Well, we have to serve you. We're a public institution. And so I'm really proud of how we handle our 504s and SPED students.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that in general, you're right. I'm proud of how charter schools do that, but really specifically, that's one of the things I'm most proud of about STrEAM Academy, the way that we have incorporated special education and embraced special education and integrated kids with those needs into our program. And we've had so much success with our students that are covered under special education. And Mr. Mosen and Ms. Kracia do an awesome job. And really we integrate, the key term in special education is least restrictive environment, right? So students are supposed to be able to participate along with the rest of the program and classes and, what's going on at school in the least restrictive environment. So integrated, or, as much as you possibly can. And we do that, I think, really well. We don't have very much separation at all with our students with special needs or disabilities. And so we're proud of that.
Our teachers really are out of this world.
Yeah, they are. They're pretty amazing people. Wow, we went down some cool rabbit holes today. I kind of like not having a really strict agenda for today's coffee, and we got talking about charter schools. So if something changes in the next 5 years and you hear charter schools rebranded as independent public schools, you can say you heard it here first on Morning Coffee with STrEAM Academy. I like that term a lot better. I pulled it out. I didn't make it up. I got it. I'm reading a book by Rahm Emanuel about cities and how cities are run, and super interesting. And he talked about his educational reforms in the city of Chicago and how they really changed and improved education in that city, where the students in like the Chicago City School District, it's like 80% poverty, and there's some really stunning statistics, and they made some really cool and brave changes and the data really showed that their school system drastically improved. It's really interesting. But one of the things he talked about was setting up this system of independent public schools in Chicago, where principals could have more autonomy and the staffs could have more autonomy, outside of the structures that Chicago had, to really, essentially reward schools that were doing creative and innovative and good things for kids, and say, here, you're going to be an independent public school now, and you get more autonomy. And that really, to me, I'm like, that sounds like that's actually what charter schools in Alaska are. You're still under the sort of the jurisdiction of public education, but then you get more flexibility and autonomy to keep doing great things. I'm like, that's us. We're not really a charter. We're not privately funded and private company that gets some public dollars. Like, we're a public school. So I stole that from Rahm Emanuel. Independent public schools, not charters.
So we have our end of the year assembly coming up on the last day of school, and that's scheduled for 11 o'clock on Thursday. Right, Ms. Gatlin?
Yes, 11 o'clock on the very last day of school, and this will be an awards assembly. So we will give some awards to some 6th and 7th graders, and then every 8th grader will be recognized as well. Adam, you're sharing your screen still.
I know.
Okay. Oh, okay, great. And this
So
time on 5/19. Good to know.
Yeah. Oh, hey. Ms. Gatlin's coming on 5/19 to talk about project-based learning.
surprise, Ms. Gatlin, you are our guest presenter.
All right.
I wonder if we can get Dr. STrEaM or maybe even our math team that's working on PBL and math. You can take that any direction you want. If you want to see if Dr. STrEaM wants to join us and have like a little roundtable about what project-based learning is and how it works.
That's a good idea.
Do that. And also if you want to reach out to any other staff members to kind of get some more voices talking about PBL, you can do that as well.
On it.
Okay. Mrs. Bionich put up a frequently asked questions slide on here. And so I thought for prosperity, we could go through these. What time does school start and end? When is drop off and pickup? So school starts at 8 a.m. and is out at 3 p.m. except on Wednesday when we start at 8 a.m. and we release lunch is at 11:30. We have a lot of parents who pick up starting at 11:30, which is okay. But school officially is out when lunch ends at 12 o'clock. So that's that one. When is pickup and drop off? I gotta make sure I defer to Mrs. Bionich. I think officially what we say is please don't drop off before 7:45. Please pick up by what time?
No, 7:30. 7:30 is when I'm upstairs. We can't have students upstairs without an adult, and I need to get in and open up the school at 7 o'clock and then make my way upstairs with all of my gear. And so 7:30 is the official open the doors, come in time.
Okay, so you can drop off at 7:30, and then what's our drop dead time for pickup?
We'd really love for students to be picked up between no later than 3:15 to 3:30, because technically I get off work at 3:30 and I still have to come downstairs and close up everything. So
yeah. All right, that is a good topic. STrEAM after school clubs. We have a lot of different after school clubs. They kind of rotate throughout the year. We've had Miss Drager does robotics every year. Miss Kodelman does Battle of the Books. What else do we have for after school clubs, Mrs. Bionich?
oh, I didn't know you were going to put me on the spot. You were supposed to be answering these
Boxing.
questions.
Boxing.
Oh, that's right, boxing.
Mhm.
Mr. Mokelke does boxing after school.
We offered jujitsu the past couple of years. We've been able to offer jujitsu.
Cool.
Mr. Strickland comes in from Palmer to do. Mr. Strickland also has his own local coffee roasting business in Palmer. So like full disclosure, Mr. Strickland comes in and does jujitsu because I've known him for a long time, long before I started STrEAM up, and he did jujitsu for me at schools in the Valley as after school clubs, and just a super neat guy that does a lot of cool things out here in the Valley. But he owns his own coffee roastery, and so he buys green like coffee beans, and they're, you know, fair trade organic coffee beans, and he has his own roaster and roasts his own different blends of beans. And so I believe his company is called Gale Force. It's Gale Force because he's also a commercial fisherman. So Gale Force coffee. And I most mornings when I'm drinking my morning coffee, especially lately, because I'm really trying to support local with closures in the pandemic. Like I've been really trying to find ways to put my money into local businesses, and so usually this is Gale Force coffee. Plug for Mr. Strickland.
Yeah, now we're gonna have to start an advertising budget so that he can pay us for plugging his coffee. We also have community members lead, like we had an art club this year where Ms. Yip, a retired teacher,
Yeah.
um,
And the
Amen.
chair of our APC right now.
yeah, and did an art club. And that's why we're looking for community and family volunteers to come in and do clubs specifically on Wednesdays. So get those families to share. Next year, one of the things that we're going to do on a Wednesday afternoon is have we have the district volunteer coordinator for Boy Scouts. His son goes to STrEAM Academy, and they're going to come in on Wednesday afternoons and help the scouts that are in our school get some badge work done. So Boy Scouts and we have Boy Scouts and female Boy Scouts. We have Boy Scouts and female Boy Scouts that both go to our school. And so they'll be able to work on badges for advancement in Boy Scouts. So that's going to happen next year as well.
Awesome. That's really cool. Does STrEAM have lockers? No. Next question.
Where do they put their stuff?
We've got
Oh,
lots of coat hangers, lots of
everywhere.
hooks, lots of shelves. Yeah, we've got that. The Wayland gave us all their bookshelves when they closed the bookstore. We put them downstairs all along that main hall, and so all of those shelves are ours for our use for student stuff. Descriptions and sign up for electives. Did you want to talk about that, or what are we doing with that one?
So yeah, so Ms. Bonertz and Ms. Bonertz will be scheduling people into electives as soon as we get feedback from all of our students. But what she and I will be working on in these upcoming weeks are getting descriptions of the electives and a Google sign up. And so we'll do that in a similar fashion as we did these past couple of quarters, where a description went out on the student page of our website, and then a Google Doc goes up, and the kids just pick their choices when they rank them 1, 2, 3, 4. Our 8th graders get their first choice because they have less time left with us. We want to make sure that they have tasted all the electives that they desire, and so they'll get their first choice. And 6th graders will get they'll probably end up in, some of them will end up in their first choice, but some of them will end up in their 2nd or 3rd choice as well. So our students will rank what they want. And so that information will come out shortly, and we'll email all of our families that are going to be with us for next year. Our 8th graders should have already chosen their electives for high school. And if they didn't, then they need to talk to Ms. Bonertz or the counselor at their new school so they can make those connections. The next thing we wanted to talk about was brown bag lunches. Does everyone brown bag their lunch? Yes, STrEAM Academy does not have a cafeteria. And because we don't have a cafeteria, everybody needs to brown bag their lunch. We do have emergency lunches available, but what we have seen is that some kids are taking advantage of that and coming in every day. We fed every day an average of 10 students a day. Now, some of those students we fed because they were low income and they qualified for free and reduced, and we had sponsors, lunch sponsors that helped us feed those kiddos. And so we did not charge them a $2 fee to pick up a lunch. But if you just forgot your lunch and you don't qualify for free and reduced lunch, then we did charge you a $2 fee. And we'll continue to do that. And our brown bag lunches are a sandwich, a piece of fruit, and then a bag of chips or pretzels or some snacky thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's,
One of-
and then of course, the charter schools in Alaska or in Anchorage have the ability to purchase a lunch from a company called Wooden Spoons. It's a school lunch delivery program, and those lunches come hot to the school every morning right before lunchtime. They're delivered to, for us, they're delivered to our front office, and then the kiddos can pick them up. And there's a link to Wooden Spoons on our website when they're up and running.
Thank you, Ms. Bionich. One of those students who forgets his lunch sometimes and has to get a sandwich from Mrs. Bionich is me.
Yeah, I've had a couple of teachers, that's true.
Mrs. Bionich makes really good sandwiches. So what Mrs. Bionich is not saying is she puts a ton of work into preparing those brown bag lunches for students who don't have a lunch and who needs one. And she coordinated our volunteers who helped with supplies, and we did have parents who actually would take turns making those brown bag lunches and bringing those in. And but Ms. Bionich put a lot of effort and energy into that, and really going above and beyond. So
well, if you don't have fuel for your brain and your body, you're not going to learn. And it's super important to me that kids have what they need in order to be successful at school. And so if this was what had to happen, then it had to happen. And so that's the fruit of all of this labor, is that our kids are better learners and they're better scientists in our schools.
well, thank you, Mrs. Bionich. Interscholastic sports. We have cross-country running and cross-country skiing. We'll be going into our second year of STREAM Academy, having our own sports programs, which we're really proud of. It's really cool. The first 3 years of our school, we didn't have our own sports programs, and our students only could participate at sports at other schools. And then last year, we started cross-country running, cross-country skiing. We have the gentleman who coached as the head coach both of those sports with us, Mr. Mosen. And Mr. Mosen coached for years over at Begich as well. And so we kind of stole him from them as a coach. Mr. Mosen, did you want to say, or go ahead, Sylvia?
Coach Mosen is amazing. Coach Mosen does not take no for an answer. So we said, oh my gosh, it's the first year, we can only have 20 kids. He's like,
I like how
every
Coach Mosen,
kid.
I like how he doesn't take no for an answer too, because he doesn't disagree with you. You tell him like, all right, you have to cap this off at 20 kids. He's like, yeah, okay, I'm working on that. I've got 25 right now. But, I'll see what I can do. And it's always, it's very good, very good. But it's always with kids' best interests at heart. We want all our
best
kids.
interest, exactly. And I think that's one of the glories of, one of the reasons that our STREAM teachers are out of this world is because it's always the best interest of the student. It's not what I want. It's not what the teacher wants. It's what's in the best interest of our students. And every one of the people that work in this building have that mindset. And that's what makes this school the premier middle school in Alaska.
Yeah.
Yeah. In terms of the sports, I know that I have the best success when I'm mingling with parents and kids, and the kids have never considered doing some of these sports. And because I was just that way too. I didn't know what I was doing in 6th, 7th grade, and just, hey, let's give it a try. So that's what I wish I could be. I wish I could be in a room full of new kids right now talking to them. But
yeah,
I'm convinced there will be a running and skiing this year, and we're gonna have to be creative and open as how that will look because of social distancing, but it will work.
Oh,
And
I
a
have
lot of
no
people
doubt, Mr.
are
Mosen,
working
that you're going to have a great team. even if they're running in their living rooms, you're going to
Yeah,
make
no, a
them.
lot of people are in the same situation, and like me, like a lot of us feel that sports is essential for the mental and physical health of our world, our kids. So we're gonna make it happen. And just like a lot of things, maybe it's not totally clear how, but I'm convinced we'll have some pretty good teams this year. That's all I got.
Awesome. Well, it is 8:57 a.m. So we can start to wrap up. We want to leave a couple of minutes here. Does anyone have any questions or comments or future topics? Mrs. Reed.
Hey, so I just wanted to add one more deadline that's coming up for our middle school kids at ASD. I'm really lucky because working at the Ed Center, I see a lot of information about what's happening with summer programs, what the district is trying to do to respond to this and keep enrichment for our students. And one of the things they've done, they had previously approved to have a middle school ANSEP academy for ASD students. And what they've done is they have decided, since the format where they would normally bring the kids to college campus or another site for 2 weeks, they're not able to do that under our current circumstances. So instead, they are doing STEM challenges. They've extended the deadline for the application to May 22nd. So students will still need to get they'll still need to get teacher recommendations, but they can submit that application to be invited. Yes, they need a math teacher and a science teacher. And I have added into the chat the link to that page where the application can be found. And they're trying to be really, really inclusive with this. I know they're trying to expand as many summer opportunities as possible for our students to keep them going with their academics and keep them on track so that next year they don't have as much to try to catch up on. So I'm really thrilled. We got the email because Eiley has applied in the past for it. I know that preference is given to 8th graders first and Native Americans, Native Alaskans, but they are really inclusive. Any student at ASD can apply, and I definitely would encourage any students going into middle school, 6th, 7th, and 8th to apply for that ANSEP Middle School Academy program, because it really is, they get great experiences. It won't be the same experiences that they have when they can do it live in person, but they really do get to explore a lot of STEM careers. They do a lot of, I'm sure they'll do a lot of virtual field trips and stuff. So yeah, I'm really excited for that.
Awesome. We'll send that link out. Mrs. Bionish and I will get that information out to folks. Thanks for the reminder on that.
Right. Do they take incoming 6th graders, Melissa? Do you know?
Yeah, it's incoming 6, 7, 8. So the 8th graders going into their 9th grade year would actually apply for the regular high school ANSEP program, which I think the deadline has already passed for that for this year, but incoming.
Thank you, Mrs. Reed. We'll get that attached to our website as well. We'll get that link added to our website. You're amazing. We appreciate you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you guys.
Awesome. All right, we're gonna start to close this session out. Encourage you once again, please join us Tuesday, Thursday next week. We have a really cool lineup of guests and topics. Thank you all so much for joining us, and we'll say goodbye. Thanks for having coffee with STrEAM Academy, and I'll see you next week.